Welcome inside episode 534 of the Locked On Senators podcast. I'm Ross Levitan on the outskirts of enemy territory in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains, and the Ottawa Senators had some unbelievable individual performances this weekend, but as a team, they go 0-2.
It was a little bit better of a weekend for Belleville, Ross, as they split their weekend games. However, the game they did lose was up against a team trying to push them out of a playoff spot.
And that theme continues. Belleville in action tonight against Laval. We'll take a look at the playoff picture that stays murky in the North Division. All that and more coming up on today's episode of the Locked On Senators podcast that's brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline is your one-stop shop with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. It's BetOnline, where the game starts. And now the show starts. This is the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.
Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Senators your first listen on this Monday, April 11th. And Pilsy, it's officially tank watch season.
Yeah, with only 10 games left in the season, Ross, the Senators are mathematically eliminated from the playoffs now, so it is tank season. And interestingly enough, all of the teams with better odds, lottery odds than the Sens, are opponents coming up in this stretch. So tank watch, there's going to be some major lottery odds affected by each game up the stretch here. So it's going to be interesting.
So you can follow us on Twitter at Sens Central. If you've been following along for years, we did this in 2020, which was very fun because Ottawa also had San Jose's first pick. Thank you, Martin Jones. Thank you, Aaron Dell, you clown, even though he beat Belleville. We'll get to Belleville a little later on. But when you are looking at the Tankathon, which we like to do on this show, we don't like to do it. I should rephrase that.
Yeah, we don't like to do it, but it gives us some sort of glimmering hope when you're watching yet again another failed season by the Ottawa Senators.
So at Sens Central, we're going to put out, and there, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see how the lottery odds shake out if it were to be today. Now, the NHL Draft Lottery will be on May 16th. Are we going to do a live stream, a watch party? Stay tuned for all those plans. But each day, I'm going to put out hashtag Tank Watch, and we'll have whichever teams are around or below Ottawa in the standings, what their game is, and what the implications are going forward. The funniest part of Tank Watch / the tankathon.com/NHL, credit for them for putting on this. You can sim the lottery, which we will do once the odds are all stuck together. So we'll have like a 2-week span where each day, and we'll see how that all shakes out. Right now, Ottawa with the 6th best odds. But Pilsy, the funniest thing about this site remains that it turns green the more losses you have in a row.
Yeah, Arizona with a positive loss 3 streak. And apologies, that is one team that the Sens won't play down the stretch, but they do play Montreal, Seattle, New Jersey, and Philly. So each loss matters, Ross.
Yes, it certainly does. So with that being said, Ottawa, back-to-back losses this weekend. New York, let's not spend too much time on. That was a complete beatdown. But as we said in the postcast, we haven't seen a whole lot of those losses. Like the one, let's forget about the ones during COVID. I almost brought up the game that we don't talk about against the Calgary Flames.
Talk about it. Yeah.
We don't talk about that one. Even the New Year's Day game where they were off for 2.5 weeks. And then they were off for another 5-6 days after.
The January 1st, 2021. 2022 didn't start for the Sens until January 2nd. That's how we do our calendar.
100%. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people do. If you go hard on New Year's Eve, January 1st doesn't count for you either.
Yeah, it's just a wash. Yeah. It was a wash for Matt Murray, that's for sure.
But beyond those two performances, we haven't seen the Sens just get absolutely pumped like they did against the New York Rangers. It was reminiscent of games 3 and 4 from the 2017 playoffs, back-to-back 4-1 losses in those games where the Sens just weren't in it at all. I guess they were a little bit. They scored the first goal, Austin Watson, showing why he's a first-round pick from 12 years ago. This guy's on a scoring spree.
Yeah, he has been putting the puck in the back of the net lately. But yeah, Ross, even when they scored that first goal in the Rangers game, I was not at all convinced they were going to have a chance. And it was all downhill from there. But this game up against Winnipeg, a little different vibe because, sure, They score the first goal, and then Winnipeg eventually ties it up. But before Winnipeg gets that goal, or should I say Victor Mete gets that goal, they didn't have a shot on net for 9 minutes. And I mean, it's hard to even classify that as a shot on net because it was a cross-ice pass that Mete deflects into his own net. So the Sens had the momentum, and they were playing really good considering the fact that they're up against a better team. But they just weren't able to fully hold on. And this was a game, Ross, where both teams' best players decided the game, right? Like Dubois, Ehlers, and then for the Sens, Tkachuk, Norris, right? And then ultimately Hellebuck makes an amazing save with the Sens goalie pulled at the end of the game on Tim Stützle. So the best players came to play, and Winnipeg was just able to edge them out, and the Sens couldn't quite get past them at the end.
Yeah, it was a great atmosphere as well. If you missed last night's postcast, Laleem's Martian had boots on the ground. We waited till he got home because it's a little chaotic when you're recording. We've done it before where it's right outside the stadium. So waited till we got back. So that'll be definitely scheduled appointment listening for later on today. But a nice segue from one game to the next is you mentioned that New York game. It was a bad effort all around. I'm wondering why Michael Del Zotto was singled out as the guy who had to become a scratch going in to the second half of that back-to-back. Ultimately, the guy who came in for him, number 98, who hadn't played. So I have trouble blaming him like wholeheartedly because he hasn't played in like 3 weeks. The guy was practicing at forward 2 days ago.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I thought simply his time outside of injury with the Senators was just done. I was shocked that he was voluntarily put into an NHL game.
Yeah, it was a bit of a head scratcher. Like I mentioned on the postcast, the only explanation I have is if you look at the Sens schedule, game day off, 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 back to back. So like it's a lot of games packed into a tight schedule there. So maybe DJ Smith's thinking the end of this packed schedule, back to back at home, let's get one pair of fresh legs in. Other than that, like why else would you have any reason to swap MDZ and Mete? Especially, sure, MDZ maybe didn't have his best game up against New York, but I would say the rest of the time he's been pretty solid on that third pair with Hamonic. And Mete and Hamonic did not work either. Like you'd think maybe the yin and yang, you got a small puck moving guy with a hard-nosed physical guy, but that didn't work out.
And that's the thing. Travis Hamonic had been not a revelation. I'm not going to say that he's sitting here changing
the things. Ottawa Senators rebuilt Travis Hamonic.
Yeah, I'm not going to go that far. But what I'll say is you found a nice chemistry pair. And the strangest thing to me is that DJ Smith has started Del Zotto Hamonic in almost every game.
Yeah.
Like that's who he rolls out first. So to then go and just snap him out and be like, no, we have to get Victor Mete a game. You don't owe Victor Mete anything. You picked him up off of waivers and then gave him a 1-year extension at barely $1 million. Remember you and I? There's no way he gets $1 million. He gets 1.1. Gosh, I don't think he's earned 1.1 this year, but good on him. Get your money. He's still an RFA after this year. So do you just not qualify him? Do you try to get a 7th-round pick from someone? Not sure. But to me, if that was his last game as a Senator, not to harp on him, like I said, it's hard when you haven't played for so long, but he was completely oblivious to the man in front of the net. I forget. I think it was the third goal against Winnipeg. No, it was the second one because it was the first 2 goals in the game. You're like, okay, Victor Mete -2 and both directly his fault. One of them, he shot the damn thing into the net. So that was just a tough bounce. And like you said, the top end guys were so close together. That's where your depth guys have to be better than the other team's depth guys. And in that situation, they weren't.
Yeah, and that's a big part of this game, right? And the power play played a big part of this game too for both teams, going 2 for 4, and it was those pesky momentum goals, Ross, that we talked about. The Jets
Ottawa had a couple though too.
Yeah, it was back and forth. That's why it was a fun, entertaining game. But the Jets get that goal right at the start of the second period to take the lead, and then Brady Tkachuk gets a power play goal right at the start of the third period to pull the Sens closer in this game. So this game wasn't out of reach, that's for certain, but when it's costly mistakes by your 7th defenseman that are affecting the game, you're not going to have a lot of success.
I mean, if we're keeping injured players in the mix, I'd call him the 9th defenseman because he could throw Shabbat Anderson above him too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's okay. Enough harping on Victor Mete. He didn't win or lose the game, although, I mean, directly responsible for 2 goals. Matt Sogard, we'll talk about his game. Also get into some individual performances. Brady Tkachuk, is he going to hit 30 goals? Can he hit 60 points? Do they go hand in hand? We'll get into all that after Pilsy has a quick word from one of our favorite sponsors.
Ross, this has become not only one of my favorite sponsors, but one of my favorite daily products to use. And
Wow.
yeah, I'm not even kidding when I say I use this every day, and it's from Athletic Greens. It's AG1. I started taking Athletic Greens because, look, I'm not the healthiest guy, a hockey podcaster. Maybe I drink a little too much pops watching the game, maybe having some chips and stuff like that. So I'm sitting down all the time, sitting down doing the podcast, watching the game on the couch. So I wanted to find a way to boost my health. How can I get the vitamins I need in one simple daily drink? And that's AG1. What is this stuff, you might be asking? With one scoop of Athletic Greens, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and more to help you start your day off right. You have it in the morning right before breakfast. It's a green drink. You get it all in one bottle, and it starts your day off just the way you want. Let's talk about the price. It's going to cost you less than $3 a day. You're investing in your health, and it's cheaper than your cold brew habit. So instead of getting a cold brew coffee, get your AG1 in you, and you're getting all the supplements you need. You're investing in an all-in-one nutritional insurance. That's what I like to see. You look at your finances every day. Well, you need to be worried about your own health as well. And they've got sustainability. Athletic Greens is a climate neutral certified company. In 2020, AG purchased carbon credits that support projects protecting old growth rainforests. That's so important in today's world. So right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition, especially, guys. I mean, we all know how important it is to stay healthy these days. Flu and cold season is out there as well. So it's just one scoop in a cup of water every day. It's simple. Even I can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. Go to Athletic Greens, and they're going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune supporting vitamin D. You got to get your vitamin D, and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. They're hooking you up. All you have to do is go to athleticgreens.com/NHL network. Again, it's athleticgreens.com/NHL network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutrition insurance.
All right, Pilsy. So the Ottawa Senators fall 4-3 to the Winnipeg Jets. I don't even know if I said the score earlier, but if you listen to the postcast, you would have got it. Go check out the postcast after each and every Ottawa Senators game. You can follow the show on our Twitter as well at Sens Central, on Instagram, lockedon.senators, and you can subscribe to the show on YouTube for some bonus content. Like a couple weeks ago, we released only there an interview with Brad Schlossman, who is the only man on planet Earth who picked the Denver Pioneers at the preseason poll to win the national championship.
Shout out Brad.
And they came through for him there. He also, of course, is the guy when it comes to North Dakota hockey. And if you listen to our interview with him, you would have known that Tyler Klevin was going back to school. That happened right after we recorded Friday's episode, Pilsy. Your thoughts on the K-Train going back to school and the Nodak Sens living on another season?
I cannot wait to go to the Ralph. That's my first thought. And I'm so excited to get a chance to see a Sens prospect playing at the Ralph. What I've heard is just incredible. And for it to be one of our favorite guys in the K-Train, like that's how we like hockey. And he's going to be, I would be surprised if he's a major leader on that team next season, because he's heading into his 3rd year, and he's someone that he's really kind of elevated his game, and now he's able to dominate at a college level. Like he's got the offensive touch that people didn't think he's got, and he's got maybe too much of a physical touch for college, but we love watching it. So I'm stoked Tyler Klevin went back. I think that's the right decision. If he was playing somewhere else where maybe you don't have as prestigious program, or maybe you don't have a coach like Bradbury, then maybe I'm thinking more like, okay, let's get him in Belleville, get him started here. But for my opinion, there's no better place for him then going back to UND. So I think it's an excellent choice.
And he got a test drive as the number one left shot
Yes.
defenseman, with Jake Sanderson missing as much time as he did.
And they did well.
They did very well. So that's maybe the most shocking statistic. I think they were 17-4 without Jake Sanderson in the lineup. That number, unofficial. But I know that it was a lot of wins.
Sounds good.
And you know who would know that stat? Brad Schlossman. 100% would know that one. But when it comes to Tyler Kleven, I think something that Sens fans can't discount is that he's a North Dakota kid who just dreamed since he was 6 years old of living and playing hockey at North Dakota. So why would he rush it if he's going to battle? And he said this in his statement that it's the best players play every night at pro hockey. It's all about winning, winning. If he's not guaranteed to be a top 2 defenseman in the AHL, I think he could be a top 4 right away. But again, it's an unknown because you're going to play against men for the first time. Yeah. He knows exactly what his trajectory is going to be. One more year of development. It's not going to hurt him by any stretch. And he gets to live out his dream. Of course, the dream is play at the NHL. Yes. And if he was going to be like Jake Sanderson and not touch Belleville at all, then yeah, it's a different conversation. But for a guy in his position, I think it's an absolutely phenomenal decision. You've got $93,000 waiting for you as a signing bonus. You have the general manager trying to pressure you to come out of school. So for him to hold strong, I think that speaks a lot to his character as well. And I'm ecstatic to see him play a big role in North Dakota's season next year. So I think that's a phenomenal move. And we're seeing all these prospects coming up, right? It was 2020 draft for Tyler Kleven. 2019 draft brought us another Nodak Sen and Shane Pinto. Still no update, although he is skating a lot. But again, with the shoulder injury, that's not the be-all, end-all to when he's back. However, the pick five picks after Shane Pinto, the Ottawa Senators take Mads Søgaard. The Great Dane had his second NHL start. Your thoughts on his performance where, you let in 4 goals. I believe it was on about 30 shots, give or take. Like, did you think that did him enough to warrant a third start, or have you seen 2 games, now get back to Belleville, help them out?
Well, let's go through the goals here, right? Like, sure, you can look at the shots and the goals, and the save percentage doesn't look great, but first goal, Mete puts it on in on his own net. No chance there. And the Jets hadn't had a shot in 9 minutes, so he's cold. Then it's a Jets power play goal where Dubois gets a tip out front. Not much you can do there. And then a 2-on-1 with Ehlers and Stützle. Stützle puts it in backdoor. And then Kyle Connor with the rock star angle one-timer. Maybe you want to get that, but when it's arguably one of the best goal scorers in the league, getting a one-timer on a power play, there's not a whole lot you can do. So and I know maybe people are slamming their steering wheel, being like, these goddamn goalie-friendly show guys that are always given a long leash to the tendies, but I feel like that's how you got to look at it sometimes, because there was a lot of big saves he had to make. Like, he made some great saves on Stützle. I thought
on Ehlers too, he had a great glove save on him, and then Ehlers tried to go short side upstairs on him, and he was having none of that. He goes upstairs is not available on my frame, guy.
Yeah, upstairs is closed and locked down, and I thought that was a cool storyline too. The 2 Danish guys, they were battling. Like, Ehlers had a lot of chances on him. He succeeds on a few of them, but Søgaard shuts the door on some of them too. So I think Søgaard has earned more NHL games. However, Ross, that doesn't mean I think he should get more NHL games, because as we'll get to, Belleville is coming down a crucial stretch here where every single game matters. Whereas the Sens, the games don't matter. It's been fun, and I'm glad he's got 2 games. He got his NHL win. He got to start at home. If I'm Pierre Dorian, I say, all right, Mads, you got a taste. Hope you enjoyed it. Now go down to Belleville and help Philip Gustafsson get us into the playoffs and play some meaningful games, and bring McNiven up as your warm body backup and have Forsberg finish off the season. Because I just think there's a lot more merit and a lot more developing that can be done when you're like, okay, sure, you're down in the AHL now, but these games matter. Like, this isn't have fun meeting your Danish friend, wave to the Sens fans at home. No, you have to win this game. We don't have a choice here. Let's see if you can handle things in crunch time. And that's what I think Mads Søgaard needs more than NHL experience now that he's got 2 games. So I would like to see them bring Søgaard back down and have him and Gus finish the season out in Belleville and go on a long playoff run.
That would be the ultimate #tank watch if Michael McNiven starts an NHL game at the end of this season.
Didn't he only have like 2 periods of NHL action this season or something like that? Or maybe
Something like
even in
that.
his whole career or something. It was
Well, yeah, it's not like he's a highly touted guy.
No, I know we talked about this before, but Ross, when we were working in Belleville, whenever McNiven would start with Laval, we would put money into our gambling account so that we could bet a lot on Belleville because we were not confident in McNiven shutting the door.
No question about that. Yeah, just looking at it, the guys played in one NHL game.
And I don't think it was a start.
It can't be because the save percentage is .571. Yeah. Okay, so Matt Sogard, you think he should go back down? I say get him one more start. The Sens have a back-to-back next weekend. Or sorry, not next weekend, next Monday, Tuesday, out west. And that one, you're going to use 2 goalies. There's no question about that because they're going from a home game on the Saturday, traveling across the continent to Seattle, playing in Seattle on Easter Monday, and then in Vancouver the next night. So you're going to use 2 goalies there regardless. And then at the end, so back-to-back, 2 days off, back-to-back. That's a weird week, but again, these are a lot of the makeup games from that Christmas time and November.
And Ross, interesting enough, maybe I'll change my opinion a little bit because I'm looking at Belleville's schedule here. They only have 1 back-to-back for the rest of the season, which is 15-16. However, their schedule is pretty tight too. Like they have a bunch of games actually where there's only 1 day in between. So it'd be a lot for Gustafsson to handle. But yeah, I agree. Maybe get him in one more back-to-back scenario and then bring him down because Gus can handle the standalone games.
Yeah, we'll get to Belleville in a sec. I do want to talk about Brady Tkachuk though. 2 goals. We got to touch on the second goal, of course. We talked about it in the postcast, but what was your initial thought? Do you think it was a good goal? If you're just listening to this, you didn't see the game. Puck comes way up in the air. Brady times it, waits, and then in honor of opening weekend in Major League Baseball, just hits an absolute bomb. Wondering what the exit velocity was on that one, Pilsy, but he got all of it right upstairs past Hellebuck.
Yeah, no kidding. Although if I'm an umpire, I'm not calling that one a strike. That's a bit above the strike zone. That's for damn sure. But if you're asking my initial impression, I thought no goal, like for sure. Because, and Gordon Miller talked about this, it's so hard to understand the angles on TV because you're looking down. Whereas ice level, it's a whole different scenario. And I'm of the mind where if they were to call that no goal on the ice, it would have stayed no goal. But as we know, the rule is if it's called a goal and you want to overturn it, you have to be 100% sure that it's reversible. And I don't think there was a point where they're able to determine 100% that it was reversible. So the power of it being called a goal on the ice is what helped that stay. And I mean, come on, that's an absolutely sick goal. Like, don't let facts get in the way of a good story. You know what I mean? Like, sure, he may have been hit it above the crossbar, but it was a sick goal, so let it happen.
Yeah, it was super sick. Maybe it's karma for the goal disallowed when Colin White headbutted it in against Tampa. Same end of the rink, same spot. And of course, they didn't count that one, but you got to give it to him. And you got to give it to Brady Tkachuk. This guy, we know he's got family ties to Winnipeg, right? Well, talk about a couple sick performances this year. Again, in 2 games against Winnipeg, he's sitting at 4 goals, 5 points in the 2 games. Pretty decent, hey?
Damn, too bad Winnipeg's not in the division. Sheesh.
I know. Funny enough,
Canadian division would have been good for that.
I know, and obviously they were in the division last year, but somebody reminded me that the first year after they moved from Atlanta, this is way off topic, they were in the Southeast Division. They were playing all their divisional games in like Carolina, Florida, and then having to go all the way back up. That's wild stuff.
It was weird when they first came in, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, back to Brady Tkachuk, though, because he now sits with those 2 goals. He did score a first one. That was a beauty play, too. Timmy with the little shake shimmy at the half wall, down to Colin White, up, and then Brady just like, that's his office. And it's great to see him really producing. This guy had a 15-game drought where he didn't score a goal.
Yeah.
And he could still hit 30 on the season. And he missed the first 4 games after coming back from the contract. Like, how much confidence would that give you and other Sens fans who maybe saw the price tag on his new contract? We know what he brings off the ice. We just had the father of a young fan on the show. Yep. Shout out Matty McGloin coming on Friday and explaining just how special Brady Tkachuk is as a person. But when you look at the production on the ice as well, not only has he brought his game up to where you knew it would. Even though he missed that time, he's still sitting at 241 hits on the season. Got to be up there in top 2, maybe even leading the team. And now the goal production, the point production, his career high was 45 points before this season, Pills. He had that in his rookie season. And now he's got 56 in 69 games.
Yeah, it's so impressive. And I think the only people that were upset about the price point were people that weren't Sens fans, like people that don't actually understand his value, that they're just looking at him and like, oh, he's just a tough guy and he'll only get 45 points a season. What a bad contract. Like, and also so many people forget he's only 22 years old. Like, he's only getting better from here, and he's going, like, a rising tide floats all boats, right? So as the Sens become a better team, those star players are going to achieve more. Same with Tim Stützle, right? Like last year, the Sens didn't quite have it. They were still kind of tinkering with their top line, and their power play wasn't there. Timmy was playing with Chris Tierney and Evgeny Dadonov, and like it wasn't working. But now they're figuring shit out, and now all of their players are hitting milestone achievements. Josh Norris, Tim Stützle. I mean, even Drake Batherson, like when you look at the point per game production he's able to put up despite missing so much time. And Brady's having an amazing season as well. So I think definitely there's an opportunity for him to not only hit 30 goals, but hit 30 goals and 60 points. Or I guess I should say that the other way around. Not only hit 60 points, but get 30 goals as well. Because he's killing it. And you got the Red Wings coming up tomorrow. You got the Habs. He hates playing the Habs. You got the...
Loves playing the Habs.
Or yes, loves playing
They
the Habs.
hate playing him.
Yes, that's what I meant to say. And then you got the Seattle Kraken coming up too. So like there are opportunities to get your cookies. And I think this top line with Joseph finding a home there is going to do well, whether Batherson's there or not.
Yeah, if he hits 30 goals, he hits 60 points, because last night he also had an assist, 3-point night for the captain, and that was his 30th assist of the season. You mentioned Josh Norris. Great time for a quick comparable here, because he played 56 games last season. He's at 56 games now this year. The goals jump from 17 to 32, and the points jump from 35 to 48. So a 50-point season is well within his reach. It could be in his reach by tomorrow night, for crying out loud, after the way he played against Detroit in the last 2 meetings. His ice time's gone up by 2 minutes per game. Everything about what he's brought to this to the table this season has been incredible as well. And then with Tim Stützle, he gets an assist last night. 5 straight games he's played in with a point. He's at 44 points in 69 games. So that, to me, is probably the least likely. Between Norris, 50 points, he only needs 2 so pretty easy stuff there. With Tkachuk only needing only 4 points to get to 60. Timmy needs 6 more points, but clearly I think all of them hit those. We'll keep following milestones. We do want to get to the Belleville Senators. Before that, a quick word from our friends at BetOnline. BetOnline is the #1 sports book. It's been with the Locked On Podcast Network forever, and for good reason too. They've got the best odds, totals, player performance props. You can literally bet on everything at betonline.net. It's the #1 place to be on the wagering web. BetOnline remains the best spot for not only all your gambling, but your sports scores, podcasts, and news throughout the season. It's everything, and what a time of year for gambling. We just had the Masters. We've got NBA playoffs starting. The NHL playoffs are soon behind. So get online at betonline.net. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. It's BetOnline, where the game starts.
And Ross, we also have a word from our friends at Built Bar. And look, guys, Easter is coming up, so everybody's buying their chocolates and getting their candy bars. Well, why not switch things up a little this season and get candy bars that are healthy for you? So check out Built Bar, the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. And they have so many great products. And what I love about Built Bar is they do seasonal, limited time only stuff, right? Like for Thanksgiving, you've got like pumpkin pie stuff. For Christmas, you've got peppermint and candy cane. So naturally for Easter, they've got something new too. Have you tried Built Puffs? They're the protein-infused marshmallow candy bars, and they're delicious. And now they've got little minis. So you can use these as Easter candies, and they're called Built Puffs Yellow Chirps. They've got a lemony flavor. They're just little bite-sized ones. Only 80 calories, but you get 8 grams of protein, only 6 grams of sugar, and a whole lot of delicious flavor. Go to built.com right now and look at all their products. Get a mix box if you haven't tried any of their protein bars, and make sure to check out the Yellow Chirp Built Puff Minis, because Built Bar is the company that focuses on taste first, and then they make sure how to find it healthy. So go to built.com, use promo code LOCK15, and get 15% off your next order. Use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. It's Built Bar, the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar.
All right, Pillsy. So we've talked about the Ottawa Senators, an 0-2 weekend to bring their overall record to 26, 40, and 6. They've now lost 3 straight games. They are 4, 5, and 1 in their last 10. But the Belleville Senators brought us a bit of joy. They won 1 out of 2 games this weekend, although the loss, Pillsy, it was costly.
It was a costly loss to the Rochester Americans. They lose 6-2, and Ross, this was a game that was decided with special teams. The Rochester Americans go 4 for 7 on the power play. Yikes. And Belleville goes 0 for 3. And the classic Sens hockey, like they outshot them here 32-24, but the attendees just weren't in it. Gustafson started this game and McNiven had to come in, and now Rochester is much closer to plucking Belleville out of that 5th and final play-in spot, we'll call it, because of points percentage. And it's going to be tough for Belleville hanging on here. The 2 wins up against Utica were huge because it's just 2 wins, but Utica's a team they're going to make the playoffs. They got to be close to clinching here, whereas Rochester is fighting for their lives alongside the Senators, so that loss hurts a lot more. Oh, muted.
And now I'm going to pull up the standings I was trying to screenshot them there. That's why I was quiet for 2 seconds. But everything is so close in the North Division that you look at it and it swings in a single day's notice. Yeah. So tonight, going up against Laval, safe to say, an important game?
Yeah, absolutely. But Ross, Laval Rocket are on a 3-game win streak, and they are comfortably in second place in this division. I would say they're probably going to stay in second place, maybe bump to third, but it's the Crunch, the Marlies, the Sens, and the Americans that are all in bouncing distance within each other. But you got to be able to defeat the Laval Rocket, because I don't want to see a scenario where all their rivals make the playoffs, and it's games like these down the stretch where you lose that ends up pushing Belleville out, and Belleville's watching from the outside as the rest of their division rivals are getting into playoff action.
And the worst part of it, too, is that loss against Rochester. That's the one team right now that's sitting on the outside looking in. But as we pull up the standings there, oh, my God. So the second place team and the 6th place team are separated by 0.038%. Wow. It doesn't get any closer to this. And the fact that 3 teams that are in this tight race, of course, Utica all the way up, Cleveland all the way down. Don't have to worry about either of those 2 teams, but everyone else, 2 get buys, 2 get in, and 1 is going to be standing when the music stops, and all the other chairs are full. So this is going to be one heck of a race. And the only thing that worries me is, as much as I want them to, I'm pretty nervous that it's not going to go their way.
Yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic at this point. And Ross, we were hoping some newcomers would help this Belleville team, but Zach Senyshyn, no goals in, I think, 10 games. He does have 2 assists, but clearly wasn't able to transition seamlessly from the Providence Bruins. And then Victor Lodin, he did get his first AHL game in this one. Not a whole lot of action, only 2 penalty minutes for him. So hopefully he can get adjusted as well, as that's a big adjustment coming from the SHL over to the AHL. So he's going to need some time, but they need the goal scoring soon here, because Gus has been playing well up until this point, but the Sens just haven't been able to put the puck in the back of the net as often as they need to get these crucial wins. So we're going to be watching closely here because Ross, it'd be so sad to have 3 straight years without Belleville playoffs. I mean, 2 of those years there were no playoffs to be had, but this is their chance.
I know, and they were literally in first place in their division when that happened, right?
They were the second best team in the league, I think, at that point, or at least second best in the conference. So,
oh my God, that's so sad, man. Victor Lodin, though, you mentioned him, and I know we had some people on Twitter that were watching that game closely saying that, like, yeah, he looked kind of like he was feeling it out. So obviously, it's too early to judge number 7 here with Belleville, the fourth round pick rather from the Ottawa Senators 2019 draft that we've already discussed a little bit there with Matt Sogard earlier. So same draft as him. So you got to understand this guy is still pretty young here, 99 birth year, so 22 years old. It's going to take him at least a game or two to get comfortable. I don't know if he's been to North America since Dev Camp right after he was drafted in 2019. So
probably not.
Excited to see him tonight. It's a home game too, isn't it? They're at home tonight or in Laval? They're at home. 100%.
They're at home. Let's go. CAA Arena.
So talk about a busy stretch. They played Utica at home on Friday, Rochester on Saturday, Laval Monday, and then they play again on Wednesday. So out of the end of this season, that's the longest homestand. You cannot be 500. They have to at least get 3 out of 4 points in the next 2 games.
Yeah, and let's put emphasis on winning that Laval game, and then getting a point in the game up against Hartford at least, because then a bunch of their games are on the road here, so their work is cut out for them. Let's see what this team can do. I mean, Troy Mann, he doesn't want to have to miss or not have the chance to go to playoffs for a 3rd straight season, so let's go.
9 games left for the Belleville Senators. They've got 2 of them against Laval, 3 against the Toronto Marlies. They play at Syracuse, at Utica, and then the lone outer division game is against the Rochester Americans. That one on the road coming up next Friday. So we're going to be here every step of the way, and we've got a Belleville Senator joining us on tomorrow's show or Wednesday. We'll see. It's a game day for the Ottawa Senators. We'll see when we run that interview, but it's going to be fantastic to get to catch up with another former first-round pick for the Ottawa Senators. So stay tuned for all that. Some final thoughts in this one, Pilsy. You got anything from the weekend? I know we kind of breezed past the New York Rangers game, but has this weekend, both losses, changed at all where you're at with the rebuild, or is this just kind of a bumpy road to be expected as we limp towards the end of the season?
It's a bumpy road to be expected because what comes up must come down. That's how that works. And when you're playing up against the Detroit Red Wings, who are behind the Senators in their rebuild, I'd just like to point that out. And
great article, too. Did you read that this morning?
No, I didn't get a chance to read it, but I'm going to check that one out.
Yeah, so The Athletic with Ian Mendes, who obviously we love on this show, friend of the show, they pulled a few other friends of the show, and then one we have a complex relationship. I'll call Scott Wheeler a friend of the show, though, still. He helped us out when we were the real little guys there. So they pulled Scott Wheeler, Corey Pronman, obviously being The Athletic. Those are their 2 kind of prospect writers. But then they also have got Chris Peters with Daily Faceoff, and then a couple friends of the show, Dave Poulin and Craig Button, were a part of this as well. Right. And they discussed whether you'd rather Shabbat and Sanderson or Sider and Edvinsson, which I feel like we put out that poll quite a while ago, but it makes sense that when you're looking at the future of those teams, that would come up. Which young forward core would you rather as well? Although 3 of the 4 Red Wings in their core are like 25 and older, with Bertuzzi, Larkin, and Verano. So anyways, I thought that was kind of interesting. And whose prospect pool was better? And that one was pretty unanimously Detroit. And a lot of them were saying that Sebastian Cossa, the goaltender, kind of pushes them ahead because, there's a lot more depth than quality in terms of both guys, especially Ottawa's graduated so much talent. I'm including Sanderson in that now that he's signed his NHL deal, but definitely worthwhile reading that article. I think it's going to be super fun years to come, especially on the back end. Like you mix in Owen Power just signs in Buffalo, so they have Power and Dahlin on the back end. Like I don't know when the power shift is going to occur in the Atlantic Division, because you look at the haves and have-nots right now, Pilsy, that top 4 squad between Florida, Tampa, Toronto, and Boston, like they don't look like they're slowing down anytime soon. And there's like a 20-point gap between them and the next group of teams here. So not sure when it's going to happen, but it'll be very intriguing to see these guys start nipping at their heels here in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I'm excited to do some or heel nipping as Ottawa Senators. But that's the thing with the Atlantic Division, though. It's either you're like a top contender, like they don't have many tweeners, right? Either you're a top contender
Don't
or
have
you're a
many.
bottom feeder.
Pillsy, they've got 2 teams with 100 points, and then Tampa's got 96, Boston's got 95.
Back-to-back champs.
96 and 95, the top wildcard team would be a point clear of third in the Metropolitan with 2 games in hand as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like the power shift between Metro and Atlantic, it leans so far into the Atlantic. Like Florida, talk about peaking at the right time, or is it too early?
Oh.
I guess that's fair to say, but they're 9-1. They've won 7 straight games. And I got to imagine, knowing that Joseph is at 10 games, you got to think that the other trade deadline guys like Giroux. So what is Giroux's record? 9-1 since he joined Florida. It's got to be really close to that. So, man, that's pretty incredible stuff there. I can't wait for the playoffs. There's going to be so much fun. We're going to follow our Sens abroad as we always do, and there's, I think, a little less than usual. Pills? I mean, there's you still got your Mika Zibanejad out there. You still have your
Vegas might not make it.
I know that's obviously a big blow to the Sens abroad community there with Mark Stone being in the mix. We used to have
Leonard.
Hoffman. Obviously, he's not there anymore.
Yeah.
Dallas got Nemesnikov. Nashville is probably the Sens team of choice. Like, imagine Boro lifting the cup would be such an awesome story. Ben Harper, guy would lift the cup almost higher than it's ever been.
Goody in Calgary.
Yeah, you got Goody in Calgary, Cody Ceci, and Kyle Turris, although Turris obviously in a very limited role in Edmonton. You've got, who else do we have here? Does Colorado have any former Senators? I don't think so. No. They used to have Ian Cole.
Yeah. I mean, if Shane Bowers gets in a game, then...
Yeah. No, highly doubt that. Boston's got Josh Brown in the mix.
And Mike Riley.
And Curtis Lazar. So there's another...
So Boston's a big one, yeah.
Especially if they play Toronto.
Nick Foligno. Yeah, okay. Boston is the biggest one, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Boston's the big... But it's Boston. I guess we still have 2017 to hold over them, too.
Exactly. And when Boston beats the Leafs in round 1, we're going to love that.
But if the playoffs start today, it's the Toronto Maple Leafs against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Sends abroad down there, Freddie Claesson, among others. So Nick Paul. I knew I was missing a very obvious one.
Yeah.
I think we put up the poll every year, like which Sends abroad do you most want to see lift the cup? And we don't have to get into the big conversation now. We're going to wait to tweet that out. But what do you think the results would be in a poll between? Let's narrow it down to Nick Paul and Mark Borowiecki. Who do you think Sens fans would be happier to see win the cup?
That's probably the best head-to-head matchup there. I think it depends. Like, are these Sens fans that watch the Boro years or Sens fans that watch the Paul years? Because I think that's where the bias is going to happen.
So, like the last year and a half, you mean since Nick Paul really took off?
That's the thing, yeah. Like, I think casual Sens fans weren't like huge Nick Paul guys. Like, if you didn't follow Belleville, you weren't too...
Or Binghamton?
Yeah, or Bingo. You probably weren't too invested in Nick Paul, but I'm going to say more people will say Boro just because he's also a hometown guy, and that toothless smile lifting the cup would be pretty incredible.
You just hit the nail on the head when it comes to the X factor in all this. Boro's bringing the cup back to Ottawa.
Yes. Yep.
Nick Paul, I think, would probably be back in his hometown in Toronto. So I think that's probably my separating factor is having Boro win the cup and bring it home to Ottawa. I think would be absolutely a fantastic storyline and a guy who's bled for this team. And to wrap up a little kind of news and notes, do you see the cross check he took from Evgeny Malkin yesterday?
Brutal. Like, he's leaking instantly. Like, at the very least, he needs a fine, and I wouldn't mind.
He's got a hearing today.
Yeah.
You think it's a fine?
At least a fine. Maybe even a game suspension. Like, that is just brutal. Like, Boro doesn't have much teeth left. Like, don't be hitting him in the mouth. Come on.
Yeah, no respect. And that's kind of like Malkin, like, supremely talented, but he's always been a bit of a snap show on the ice. And I think that the league needs to come down on him and say, hey, that's not flying around here. Especially, like, they were going back and forth, and, like, that's cool. I'm sure Boro mixes it up more than the average guy in the league, but you can't then just go right up to the jibs. Malkin's got 5 inches in height on Boro?
And a lot of pounds, probably.
Just push him around, man. Like, come on. Just have
and then he skates away right after.
No, disrespectful.
Don't like it.
Speaking of disrespect, this is what we'll end the show off on is
Okay.
Tim Stützle spoke to the media
Yes.
yesterday after the game, and it was his first time since the Brendan Gallagher gong show surrounding the Montreal game last Wednesday. How did you think he handled his comments? I'll pull up the quote while you give your initial impression.
Perfectly. I mean, if we're talking about kids are watching, if we're talking about being role models, let's place both these comments side by side. And it's pretty clear who took the high road here and who decided to whine like a little baby because they didn't get what they want and lost the game. Like Timmy just says, hey, everyone has their own opinion. I respect him as a player, and I'll leave it at that. He doesn't first things first to the media.
When I was 10 years old.
10 years old. Like, I don't know. I hate Brendan Gallagher. I'm sorry.
Yeah, if you just showed people the quotes and said, guess who's 20 years old and guess who's 30 years old, I think it would be a nice little flip-flop. Here's the exact quote, and shout out Ian Mendez for asking him. He said, he initially starts out by absolving Nick Suzuki of any wrongdoing, which, again, taking the high road, saying, I don't think it was intentional. He talked to me on the ensuing draw. He said, I'm sorry, which wasn't, if you could read lips. Cole Caulfield had a very different opinion, and I hope that he figures that out going forward in their next meeting. That to say, Stützle also explained that when he got up, and he also made note, and I'm glad he went so far as to say he got up under his own power. Because a part of what Brendan Gallagher said, he's just laying on the ice. He was taking 5 seconds to be like, do I have
Is my knee intact?
Knee injury.
Yeah.
Of course he's going to grab his knee. It's not like these soccer players where they're grabbing their shoulder when they get hit in the ankle. It's none of that. He's checking it out. He makes note of saying, I got up, and then said that the Montreal bench was chirping him as he was getting up from a knee-on-knee injury. Tells you what kind of guys they are.
Yeah.
And said, you'll be okay. So you know what he did? He says to the media, he goes, I wanted to prove to them I would be okay. So he goes out on the power play. The Sens score on that power play, and then he misses the next 2 games. I thought it was a all-class response from Tim Stützle. As you mentioned, you paraphrased it. I'll just finish off by mentioning that. Quote, everyone has their own opinion. They can say what they want. I have my own opinion too. But in the end, I respect him as a player. He's a veteran. That's all I'm going to say about that. Get the popcorn ready for April 23rd, Pilsy.
Oh, yeah. Get the popcorn. Get your Sens merch. Get your tickets in section 319 and 320. Get ready to have some drinks before the game, some good food, and get ready to watch Brendan Gallagher front.
It's going to be
Let's see what happens.
Gallagher.
Oh, we're booing. For Habs fans to have the audacity to boo our boy Timmy, I'm going to boo till I have no voice left for the postcast anytime I see that guy, that Gallagher guy. I'm so mad. I'm so mad, Ross.
I know. And just like the narrative now spreading around the league, like if you watch and go to @Senators and listen to Tim Stützle's entire availability, if you tell me that you don't like him, like all that I thought was that clown from the Athletic, Sean Gentile, whatever. And he said it's ridiculous, if not an embarrassment to what. And all I was thinking is like, you're calling this guy an embarrassment? This guy might be the most respectful guy I've ever seen in my life. Like, he gave us over half an hour of his time that he didn't have to. So obviously we've got a little bias towards him because of that. But not only that, like, you cannot watch his availability last night and say that he's an embarrassment to the game. If anything, someone writing that about him is an embarrassment to the game. And it's just unfortunate that he's kind of caught in the crosshairs here because he's such a skilled player and he has such fast edges and he's still growing into his body. He's a little bit of a Bambi out there. That's fine. Brady was as well. Brady was, remember him as a rookie? This guy was falling down left, right, and center. Yeah. And the fact that it's that play of all of them that brought up this whole mess is unbelievable. It's literally, what do you say? Getting caught in the K-train tracks is probably the most dangerous play in hockey with your head down and having a defenseman closing on you. I'd say a knee-on-knee hit is probably right behind it as the number 2 most dangerous play in hockey. That's a long-term serious potential injury. And for him to be called out on embellishing on that play, unbelievable. And slander, and it has to stop. So get your tickets for April 23rd. We're going to have some fun at the CTC. Follow along on Twitter at Sens Central, and you can click our link tree. It's on our Twitter bio, and the link to the tickets are right there. We've got almost 50 people sitting in the section right now. So let's keep that rolling and stay tuned for an official pregame spot, working on some negotiations to try to get everyone the best deal possible. For today, we say goodbye. Thanks so much for listening. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.